Yeah.
Getting down with yours.
Yes, you can. We should probably pull it up, right?
All these people.
What?
These people.
Aaron, are you able to pull up the agenda from the website? And then I
I
can,
can print some off.
oh, could you, yeah, the main printer's not working, so I can print them from your office.
Oh, you have a printer in your office. Okay, good.
Thank you, Irene.
Thanks, Evan.
All right, at 6 o'clock, we'll start with the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Welcome, everybody, and thank you to those who are on Zoom. I know not all our committee chairs could be here in person, and so I'm grateful to those of you who are here on Zoom and in person. That's great. Do we have adjustments to the agenda? No? Okay. Did people have a chance to review the minutes of the last meetings? Does anybody have any changes?
I just had one that I sent Aaron.
I saw that, yes, thank you. About that, it really isn't more information since the meeting, right? About the shellfish warden salary being paid partly by our
It's
town.
paid partly by our town and then with the permit fees and other fees that they collect
Okay,
to create the budget.
somebody want to make a motion to approve those? Steve,
We approve the minutes.
Second,
all in favor? That's 5, thank you. Communications received from the town manager or select board members, that we should all be aware of.
I received a couple that I'll provide updates on in my report.
Okay.
To come to the full board.
All right. So the warrant. Well, Irene's gone into print things for us, but do people have a chance to review that? I actually did have a couple of questions, so I guess I'll have to wait. To come back. So then we'll skip that for a minute. Are there any public comments other than things that are on the agenda for tonight? No, okay. Maybe I'll take another easy item on here. We have, the appointment of an alternate code enforcement officer to provide backup for our code enforcement officer, and that person's name is Courtney Barnum. Brandon, you want to tell us why this is recommended by you?
Courtney's the code enforcement officer in Thomaston, and essentially neither town has an alternate at this point, and so if either of them were ever away on vacation or up sick, and there were things that were pressing that needed to be tended to, we would have alternates in place that could sort of help out. It's sort of like a mutual aid agreement.
And is that's an appointment that we'll need to sign paperwork for?
Yes, if you all choose to.
Okay, well, I will make a motion that we appoint Courtney Farnham as an alternate code enforcement officer.
I have a question. Would we be paying this person on a regular basis or just if they stand in
No, yeah, it is on an as needed basis.
as needed? I'll second it.
Any other questions or discussion? No, all in favor? That's all 5 of us. We may as well, hear from the resident who's asked to address the select board regarding, concerns about a junkyard and odors near Rippley Creek.
That's me.
Yes.
I'm Lorraine Walker and we live at 17 Rippley Creek Road right here. So we're next door to the junkyard. It's been close to a year since we've been here. The junkyard has pretty much doubled in size. The situation on the road is no better. And we're here basically to ask you, number one, Are you going to do anything about it? Number two, is there any plan in place for this to get cleaned up?
All right, Brandon, you wanna respond to her, questions or have to do that?
Sure, I will say, back in the spring, when we realized that a junkyard would not likely be able to be permitted, on that lot, the, he's not the owner, but the person who was sort of running it was told he needed to clean it up. And he, in the spring, cleaned it up to a point where Terry deemed it was hard to justify it as a junkyard, meaning what was remaining were things that, you know, were arguably still of use and could be repaired, and a lot of the junk, is following the state's definition for junk and junkyard, had been removed. I received Lorraine's comment a week ago, and I went down to check it out, and the cleanup that had happened in the spring has been undone, and there is plenty of what would be deemed junk in the yard. So Terry, I don't know what you would like to add.
Well, I had taken pictures prior to you mentioning it to me, and I was just looking at those pictures again, and a lot of that stuff, it would probably be difficult to call it junk, but I agree that it is extremely messy, and there's vehicles there that shouldn't be there because of the water and the close proximity to the water and that sort of thing. You had mentioned about fining him, and that's probably the way to go, but that had to be done through the select board. And then ultimately court.
I think so. When I was there, I think there were probably 24 shopping carts, you know, and so to me, I think it would be tough to identify that as anything but junk, meaning they're being scrapped. You know, no individual that I can understand would have a use for 24 shopping carts. And so I think in order for the select board to pursue issuing a fine, it would need to be deemed a junkyard. Otherwise, we don't have an ordinance that says your yard can't be messy. The state has definitions for junkyards and how to permit them and not. And so it would need to be deemed a junkyard in order for him to be in violation.
Well, I guess the question I have about that is, my understanding is that the state has definitions of junkyards that can exist if people have permission to have a certain kind of, you know, if they're not in the shoreland zone, and, you know, there's stuff you can have, if you have fences or screening or whatever, you can have a certain amount of.
And that's all
Stuff.
that I found too.
And then if you don't meet those criteria, which because this is in the shoreland zone, they wouldn't be allowed to have any kind of junkyard or storage stuff, then it seems to me like what needs to happen is that Terry needs to make his judgment and bring that to the select board with the facts that support us, you know, considering a recommendation, and then we act on that.
That is correct.
Okay.
We even, you know, we developed a junkyard permit in the spring because there was no way to apply for one. And we, you know, met with the planning board to review it as well. And so that's in place. And then he decided not to pursue getting it permitted and instead just cleaned it up to the point in which Terry, you know, no longer considered it a junkyard, but I don't think that that's its current status. So yes, we would need.
So it will need to come back to us once the code enforcement officer has made his judgment. Did people have other comments yet?
Yeah, I live on the same road at the end. My concern is the public safety part of it. There's lots of days when the snowplow can hardly get through, let alone a fire truck or an ambulance. Due to his cars on the road that isn't even his property. It belongs to the lady across the creek, you know, and they're double parked. And there's more junk there now than there ever was. Contrary to what you guys might think. But on a daily basis, there's tons of junk. And he told me to my face last week that he made $2,000 off that junk. So to me, it's a junkyard.
He's
But
separated.
it's not a permitted junkyard.
No.
Right.
Right, so, you know,
My concern is public safety.
yeah,
I think there's supposed to be a setback on the road. And lots of days I can hardly get through there without putting my mirrors in. So,
And I'm concerned that it's shoreline zone, as you said, because I looked it all up and I found exactly what you did. It is not permitted in the shoreline zone, 250 feet back, and it must be screened from view. It's terrible. It's everywhere now. I would ask that the selectmen please ride in that road and look.
well, our role is to make a judgment based on the information that comes to us from the code enforcement officer and the town manager, and not go driving around ourselves doing investigations of
Well, because you can
concerns.
look out this window.
Well, right, not that most of us aren't aware because of where it is, we are aware the general situation, but any decision we make has to be based on, you know, a record that's brought to us.
It's
So,
things all piled up along the side of the shed now. It's all out back. They have a huge mound for the septic system. It's all up the side of that septic system. The tent is so full that it's full now to the street. And now he has, probably old, washers and dryers, and he has a lot of gas grills that I'm sure don't run. And they're all sitting out there, tires. Anything you might think of is there.
so presumably information like that will be in the code enforcement officers.
pretty much looks like the metal pile at the dump to me.
Jane or Brandon, what gives us the power to give a fine? What, is there a specific,
State statute. I
a
believe.
state
Yeah.
statute? Cause I was gonna say, there's, I think, one or two town ordinances that give fining capabilities under the solid waste ordinances.
Yeah, no,
Okay.
I'm quite sure. I didn't reread the
But
statute.
we have the power to do it.
At the time that we're considering what to do, we'll make sure this
Okay.
group has
Okay,
what gives us the authority to do it, what the range
Okay.
is of options, and the basis for making a judgment. So, you know, I appreciate the
Yeah.
citizen concerns and coming to us, and I know it's been a frustration for a while, but we also have to follow the legal process and make sure we can justify our decision.
We just would like to see something happen. You know, we've waited a long time and nothing has happened.
My wife runs a salon at the end of the road. And like I said, there's a lot of elderly ladies going in and out of there. And lots of times it's not really passable. You know, you have to stop and wait, and it's a town road.
Oh, and he blocks the road when he has loads of his carts and washing machines and stuff that he's loading and unloading. So then we have to wait on the town road for him to load or unload. That's
There's
good.
nothing personal. I
It
like
isn't
the guy.
anything, we like him, but we don't feel like we should have to put up with all that mess.
I've driven down there a couple of times in the last few weeks just for the perspective of public safety to make sure that vehicles could get through. When I was down there was enough room for, I think, you know, an ambulance or fire truck to get through. But I do believe that there are times where the road's blocked. I have seen that, and I've talked to him about it, but I will continue to monitor that part of it.
All right, well, Brandon, you'll bring that to us, if and when you think it's appropriate.
Oh, I think Terry will, but
Right.
Yes.
It will come.
Can we expect some sort of an answer in the next month of what's gonna happen?
Sure. Sure.
Because we're sort of all getting out of patience a little bit.
I will let you know when it will be on the next select board agenda.
Okay,
And that'll be once Terry, you know, completes his sort of review.
and the sewer smell that I had smelled was just one day. So it stopped. Thank goodness it stopped. Because we had it for weeks, if you remember, last winter. But I only smelled it that one day, so let's hope that's remains the same.
Do you wanna address the findings from that prior incident?
We did multiple tests on the water in the creek. Again, I think that was last spring, or maybe the fall, I can't remember exactly.
In the spring, yeah.
In the spring. And the only thing that showed up was animal fecal matter. And so, assuming that if somebody had a failing septic system near the creek, that it would show up in the
Yeah.
water test, and we weren't able to find anything. And so that one's,
That one's on hold. for-
yeah, that one's pretty tough to
Yeah.
figure out what's going on. And it seems to disappear for long stretches.
It does,
Yes.
it's like this time of year when the frost is like in and out of the ground, and
Mhm.
it's been that way for, a few years.
I think I personally think it's someone's septic system
Oh,
right in
that may be
in the neighborhood. We
But
just-
if the water testing doesn't show that, then
Right.
it would be hard to,
Yes,
do
but I don't
something.
even think that it needs to be going in the creek. I think it's just malfunctioning and just probably coming out on the ground somewhere out there and then.
But I have walked the neighborhood several times,
Yeah.
and I can't find any.
No.
Can't find anything.
It seems so it would show, but
I think it's sewer gases, or, not sewer gases, but mash gases and things of that nature, but.
Yeah.
But keep an eye on it.
all right. Well, thank you for
Thank you very
coming.
much.
We'll, go back to the warrant, Irene, we skipped over this, because I did have a couple of questions and you upstairs. On there's a charge for the comp plan meeting. Does anybody know what that was about? It's, if you're looking at the first page, the first debit, it says comp plan meeting, not just because I didn't know what they would have.
Mine says Knox County Registry of Deeds, which
I'm looking at this page, the first page.
oh,
1926.
you're looking at the one.
My guess is that Bella's impact grant that we got for the Working Waterfront series, that $19 I think would be from Hannaford for waters and plates
So but that's from the grant.
from the
And
grant.
so
yeah,
it
which
funneled through.
It
Okay.
came from, we have the money that came in for the grant, and this is just,
Okay. All right, that makes sense then. So my next question is for you, Brandon, because of course we're seeing big charges for salt for the roads.
Mhm.
How are we doing in our budget for such things as that for this year?
Well, we're buying more salt than previously because, it's been a winter that has demanded it. The contractors prefer to use a lot of salt too. And so I don't have an updated expense summary in front of me.
I can get that to you guys, I can.
Yeah, I was just curious if it was getting to a number that was any kind of concern to you.
It is a bit of a concern for sure. And I feel like there's little alternative.
Right.
There are other towns that can't get salt even, because, places are running out of them and we've luckily been able to continue to get it. I did meet with Jimmy Callick just to see how salt is being used and, when a truck goes up to South Thomaston, making sure that it gets filled in South Thomaston before it comes back down. And so, that arrangement, all makes sense. I just think it's the nature of a brutal winter.
Okay. And in the harbor department, there's a payment to Maine Water, is that?
That's the Tinkle Storage Road.
Okay, where we use their water from the Port Clyde Water District.
Exactly.
Okay, that's our water bill from them.
Yeah.
Hey,
And there's a service fee that's, so even when in an off season, like now, when not much water is being used, we'd still have a bill.
Did anybody else have any questions on the warrant? All right, then, do we have a consensus to, issue disbursements in the amount of $745,243.78. Yes, everybody's nodding. Okay, then we will sign that for you. Thank you. Yeah, that was right on mine. So. All right, so Aaron, if you would talk to the committee chairs who are here about how we can all do our part to advance the goals that are in the comprehensive plan that was adopted by the voters this fall.
Share screen. So it's really hard to see who's gonna zoom in. I'm not gonna zoom.
Summer, can you see what Aaron's pulled up on the screen?
Oh, that's it.
Good, okay.
Okay. Actually, let me zoom in those. Can everyone kind of see that? Okay. So this spreadsheet has all of the strategies that are within the comp plan. And each of these, so there's several sub sheets within this big sheet, and this sheet, you know, see, has all of the strategies. But then each committee or department, the CEO has its own spreadsheet, but then it's a budget committee, comp plan committee, everyone has their own sheet. And we'll look at budget committee for an example. So it tells you what chapter it's in, so if you want to go look at the comp plan, you can do that and cross-reference. But it shows basically all the strategies that your committee is responsible for or consulting for. And it tells you exactly which one, if you're responsible or consulting. And the difference being that if you're responsible, you have to be the one moving it forward along with anybody else who's responsible for it. And if you're consulting, the people who are responsible will ask you for help. So this is just informational, basically, for now. Does that part make sense? And then there's more.
Eric, can we get a copy of that?
Yes. Yeah, everyone will get this sent out. If you want to go into more detail, there's more information on this first page. Just notes like policy numbers are for reference purposes only, what short-term, midterm, and long-term means, etc. And some instructions. If you want to filter things, you can filter things in a way that only you can see it and no one else who sees the spreadsheet can see it, so it's very easy. And people will only be able to view this. So that's in terms of looking at these strategies. But then in terms of tracking progress on the strategies, Jane, do you want me to go through both of the ideas I had or just the one that I
Go ahead with what you were thinking.
Gotta share my other screen.
And maybe you could pick another, like, the harbor committee or emergency, pick another committee as an example.
Just to look at it right here, real quick?
Or, no, for the next part.
Okay. Sorry, stop sharing so I can share my other thing.
So the first tool, the one that you just showed us, will have all of the strategies for all of the committees and boards, which includes the select board.
Mhm.
And that is a read-only list of things we're supposed to be working on in the next 10 years. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay.
What is it? Sorry. Okay, so in terms of everyone, Okay. Tracking their progress. So this is my idea, open to feedback, but each committee could have a Google form that is already populated with all of the strategies that they're responsible for. So this is a budget committee example, which unfortunately is the only example I have. But, so for example, strategy 5A 1.1, advance and track progress. And then whoever's filling this out could just write down what the committee has done, if anything, for that. And they would just do that for each of the strategies and then submit it. And they would do that however often the select board is asking them to. I don't know if you thought about that, if it's yearly or.
We have not discussed that.
So however many times they ask. And this would be easy. Anyone in your committee could do it. Doesn't necessarily have to be the chair. And you would just use the same form every single time. And then all of that would automatically go to this spreadsheet, which the select board could then look at and see what everyone's doing, and it would go to your correct committee.
So when they fill out the form you just showed us, it will automatically include that information on this bigger Google document that the select board and the town manager can look and see what every committee is doing. So like if we ask them twice a year, you know, at 6 months in and in June, near the end of our fiscal year, to tell us what they've been working on. And then those, right after those deadlines, we would look and see what everybody was doing. We'd be able to tell.
Exactly.
So it auto populates.
And then they would link to each other. So this would link to the informational spreadsheet. And, you know, if you have access to one, if you lose the other one, you can still access it from the other place. So. The only thing about this from a select board point of view is you would have to look at each committee instead of seeing all the strategies and then what all the committees are doing for that. But I think I could do some Excel magic and combine it all. I'll work on that, but.
I almost think it's better to keep it separate.
It's gonna be cleaner.
Right.
It's a lot of information. So what do people think about this?
Yeah, does that make sense? Would that be easy for everyone?
Sounds like a pretty straightforward way to track progress, or lack of it. Hopefully there is some.
Well, and the goal is, you know, the comprehensive plan committee spent 2 years working on that plan and got all this input from the community, and we voted on it and said, these are the goals we have for ourselves for the next 10 years. And the purpose of a tool like this is to make sure all of us are working together to advance those goals. And it's not like in the old days when it was in a notebook on a shelf, and unless you felt like getting it out and looking at it and seeing what your group is supposed to be doing. Hopefully if we sort of build ourselves an infrastructure where twice a year we're reviewing what does my committee need to be doing, and reporting on that, or coming to the select board and saying, we don't understand what we're supposed to be doing here, whatever. Then when the individuals who are chairs now or on the select board aren't here anymore, there's still gonna be this tool for the next 10 years to keep us moving forward.
And there would probably be no maintenance year to year, but someone would have to manage it and, you know, make sure they know where the link is and everything like that. Which Bill has agreed to do after I'm gone, and then if he's ever gone, he would have to pass it on to someone.
I'm not sure we're gonna let you go.
Well, and I told Aaron and the select board, the chairs know this, and Brandon knows this, that there is an Excel spreadsheet with every committee member and every chair. So there's like all 100 of us that are on committees and boards for the town. And I try to keep that up to date constantly with phone numbers for people and email and everything. So when there's a new chair of a committee, you know, I'm usually sending them, I hope I'm sending them the stuff that they need, and the liaisons have that, so that you're as a liaison helping keep your committees on track. With the things that are their goals. And as you saw, the time frame is like short, midterm, and long, which should be helpful.
I think the only thing that I would encourage chairs and committee members to take on is building in a more frequent review of the strategies sheet. If you're only pulling that up when you get the biannual ask from the select board to fill out the survey, like, oh yeah, we forgot about that one, we haven't worked on it at all. So if quarterly the committees are reminding themselves what the priorities are that are listed in the comp plan, you know, okay, we're approaching midterm of the comp plan now, you know, maybe we need to start putting some effort towards this piece of it. I think is what will really make this tool useful.
Yeah, it really should tie directly into the action items that each committee is working.
Right.
And on your Google Doc, would we fill in just the responsible boxes, or would there, if we're just consulting, do we leave those alone?
My thought was that all of them will be in here, but only the ones you're responsible for will be required to answer, but
Okay.
that's open to.
I mean, really, everything we're all doing, we should record somehow. And it isn't like we're not doing this stuff now. I mean, when you look at the comp plan strategies, these are almost in every case, things that your committee is already working on. There are a few things off in the future that haven't really been tackled, but
More a way of tracking and recording what's happening.
right.
And I think it's like a giant leap for the town's knowledge management as well. You know, right now you would have to attend every committee meeting to really know the depth of what's going on, you know, besides what you get from the committee reports here in this meeting. And so, you know, getting it all in one place, and the ongoing efforts is helpful. I think it'll help break some of the work out of the individual silos that it can live in.
I think it also delivers consistency and succession planning.
Right.
So what are you going to be sending to us?
Right now, nothing, because all of this has to be created, which will take some time. But eventually you'll get a link to the two spreadsheets, so the one that's just informational, and then this one that shows everyone's responses. And then you'll also get the link to the Google form, but then the cover page of the spreadsheet will have the links to everyone's Google form. So if you have this, you can get there.
So as you can see on here right now, she started alphabetically and put the budget committee, the code enforcement officer, comp plan. But then she hasn't gotten to the planning board, the harbor committee, emergency services. So she's creating this tool with our input. And then once it's created, you'll get it.
But the list is already created, right? The list of strategies. So has that gone to everybody?
No, it hasn't. I could send that out.
That would be helpful. Yeah, that would be helpful to have that.
Would this include the ad hoc committees or just the standing one?
Well, yes, it would include the ad hoc committees because, for example, when the comp plan was adopted, we didn't have an open space committee yet. But the jobs that they had were in there, you know, were in the comp plan.
Right.
So now that is something that we'll need to figure out how to specify responsibilities for a committee that didn't exist, you know, when the comp plan was adopted.
Yeah.
Summer has a question.
Yeah, Summer.
Sorry, I'm trying to follow this and I can't really see what I'm looking at because it's tiny on my screen. So would this kind of take place of a yearly review? Because this would be kind of the same idea of just getting updated throughout, whether it's twice a year or quarterly. Same idea as a year. Yeah.
I think what we're thinking is that if you know, the committees are in the same fiscal year as the town. So if at the beginning of July, in your first sort of organizational meeting that in August, that your committee has, July or August, you look at the strategies for the coming year and which ones are short-term, mid-term, long-term, and you figure out, these are the things we would like to work on this year. And maybe those will be things the select board has asked you to work on in the short term, like, for example, raise money for the Snows Point Lodge would be one of yours.
Yeah.
Right.
So our committee sets goals every year, and those are our, so I guess that would be what you would be looking for. So we set goals, and we spend the year trying to work on those goals. Sometimes we get a little overzealous. We might have 5 goals; they carry over to the next year because we don't meet them all. But as far as I guess it would be telling you what those goals are, and then checking on the progress at a later time to see how we've met those goals or how we're working toward those goals.
Can you pull up the strategies page? Well, there are some pieces in the comp plan that concern Parks and Rec. And so when you all set your goals for the year, you would want to make sure that you were reviewing what the town outlined as Parks and Rec goals for the next 10 years to make sure that those are working their way into your goals. Some of your goals will be separate from the comp plan because they're so day-to-day operations focused, running a good Muscle Ridge tournament, for example, whatever it may be. And so it's really just making sure that your committee is being informed by what's in the comp plan.
Which I've never seen anything like that before. So this is all new, I assume?
Right.
Yes.
Okay. I've never seen a comp plan. Okay. I got you now.
So because the voters have told us what they want us as a group, this 100 people that are serving on boards and committees for the town, what they want all of us to be working on. So we are taking our marching orders from the community, and that will form what we're working on. It doesn't mean, as Brandon said, that you don't have some ideas of your own for this year, things you want to be working on. But we need to pay attention to what they've asked us to do. And that's what this list is.
And so the fact that, the town has always had a comp plan, we just updated it, we have a new one now. So the fact that you've never seen the town's comp plan, after being on a town committee for however many years you have, Summer, is why this tool, exactly, so is why this tool's in place, so that committees are informed by, what was outlined in the plan, what residents outlined as important to them.
Okay. And, so there were some things the community told us that might not have been so much on your radar, like more programs for seniors, and as a result of that, that Ashley has, worked on that. And that's where, she got that idea because the community.
This is a way for us to collaborate better together, really, and kind of hear our townspeople and what's needed and what's wanted from them.
Right.
Okay.
And make sure we're working on what they've asked us to do.
Yeah. Perfect.
Well, I think these are great tools. And some of us who aren't as computer savvy as others might want a little tutorial from Erin in our committees, or if you're the board chair, and she's perfectly happy to do that. So, and the select board, of course, has a lot of responsibilities in the comp plan. So we will be having to pay attention to this regularly.
It is very user friendly too. You do not need an advanced computer skill set to be able to navigate it.
Ken?
Yeah, I just have a question about the progress sheet. Is Erin gonna fill out progress sheets with all the blanks for us to fill in, or is that thing we have to take from the big spreadsheet and create our own progress sheets?
You're gonna get a blank sheet from her that if the select, you can, it could be on your agenda for your committee every time you met if you wanted, or it could be quarterly. I'm guessing that the select board is gonna ask for like twice, at the beginning of the year or at 6 months in and at the end of the year to make sure that everybody's caught up by then
But you won't have to create the sheet, Ken. Erin will create it with all the strategies that are relevant to your group and then send it out to you.
So on the example that's on the screen, it shows what the policy is and what it says. That's an example of a budget committee thing. And then
And then just fill it out.
then you can fill in the.
And then those answers flow through onto the bigger one.
Correct, onto this spreadsheet.
Yeah,
So
that,
everyone will be able to see everyone's answers.
so we only answer them once though, on our
Once
individual
per time
sheet.
period.
Yeah,
Right, we don't have to fill in the big.
right, got it.
Just the-
Erin, do you have any guesstimate on the timing to provide that to the various committees?
Well, I can provide the informational one, I mean, tomorrow morning. I don't know, a couple weeks, maybe,
Probably.
yeah.
Which is great, because that means, folks can review the strategies, refresh themselves on what, is taking place in their department.
Well, thank you, Erin. Like Brandon said, I feel like we've come a long way, with having a really robust and ambitious comp plan and then tools for helping all of us work together to accomplish the stuff that's in there.
I wish we had this when I started. It would have really been so much easier.
Right.
It's true.
Yeah, I mean, the number of committees and how much work everybody is doing is extraordinary. I mean, even the little updates we get here are very short and we're not.
I also want to say, I just heard a question about for people who can't access Google Docs, you should still be able to fill in the form if you if you don't have a Google account or anything, as long as you have like an internet browser, you should be able to do it.
And it can be anyone on your committee too, right?
Yeah.
So if you've got somebody computery, you could lean on them.
Town Gmail accounts don't.
Mine doesn't work. Mine doesn't. It asks me, I put the password in and it says this is an incorrect password.
Huh.
It's never worked. In 3 years, it's never worked. So, yeah. It's fine. I'll be gone. Don't worry about it.
It's important for it to work for all the select board members, so. Do you have trouble with Google Docs or have
I
you?
do.
Okay.
I'm not positive, but I don't think I do.
Yeah, because when I'm always going into the town drive when I'm working on.
I never can get in. I've never been able to get in.
Well, that's not a good thing. All right, well, if people don't have any other questions, thank you, Erin, and we look forward to everybody getting into it. And it's related.
All right, maybe worth you staying on. I have an update that is relevant to Parks and Rec later in the meeting.
Do you want to do that now? So then she can go if you want to go. Oh, it's in your town manager.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, why don't you do it so she doesn't have to stay at home?
Okay. So one of the communications I received was from a parent who's also a Parks and Rec committee member that was concerned about Oceanside Little League and some of the finances and where money was going and whether or not she thought that St. George was being charged more and we weren't getting anything for it. And so I met with 3 board members from the Oceanside Little League. And so I will clarify a couple of points. The Oceanside Little League, first off, is its own nonprofit. It's a separate group. And the fee for all players is $75, regardless of what town you're from. In the financials, it shows up that, St. George pays $4,500 roughly, $4,700, something like that. And other towns pay less. And so for some of those towns, it's because we have more players. And for other towns, it's because the towns themselves do not pay for their participants. So when you read the financials, it looks like Rockland is not being charged, and they're not. It's because all of the parents and families that are from Rockland have to pay that $75 fee themselves. So we're not being charged any more than any other participants in Oceanside Little League. In terms of what the fee covers, it covers things like field maintenance. But again, mostly the two fields in Rockland, because those are owned by Oceanside Little League, the group. They are not Rockland City fields. They're owned by the nonprofit. We are this year getting support on some infield mix. So we did not receive any field maintenance funds in the past from them, but we didn't ask for it. I don't think, Ashley was still new, wasn't sure of the arrangement. I also think Ben Vale just preferred to do it himself. He was particular about the fields and wanted to do it a certain way. But they don't pay for any field maintenance for like the Thomason field that they use as well. Thomason still has to mow that field, and they'll offer the same type of support that they offer us, which is certainly a lower level than the full maintenance of the fields that they own. One important distinction here is that, and I know that this is a lot for Little League softball and baseball, but the concerns were, big, I think, and so I want to make sure that it's on the record that it's very clear. Anyway, the way that Oceanside Little League would prefer the league be run is that all players would be in the Oceanside Little League pool. St. George, however, wanted to keep its own teams. It's a separate St. George team rather than combining with Thomason and Rockland that are all in the Oceanside pool. So because of that, there are certain sacrifices that we do make. We do have to, if we want to have our games on our own fields, they can't pay to fully maintain the fields that they don't own, that we own. They provide uniforms from the fee.
From the $75?
Yes, well, the $75 does not cover uniforms. But what they do is solicit sponsorship to cover the uniforms, and then they will provide them.
But not for St. George.
That's right, because Ashley offered to do that herself because that's how she would pursue it. The idea being that we'd get a local business sponsoring it rather than have the St. George team be paid for by Penn Bay Glass. And so Ashley will look for a local sponsor. Anything that is not covered by the sponsorship in the past has been paid for by the Parks and Rec boosters. Anything to add there, Summer?
I just know that there's a lot of frustration with parents. This has been a big topic of conversation for a while. And Brian knows a lot more about this than me. The Little League always kind of goes over my head. But I know that the fee was waived for several years because Ben volunteered to do the schedule for them. So there was no big issue with it because we weren't paying anything. But now that we're paying quite a significant amount per kid, everybody wants to know what that money specifically is getting used for and how we're benefiting from it. And I guess I'm just not feeling like we're figuring that out. I mean, it sounds like now we might get a little bit of, turf, whatever for the field. We're still going to buy our own uniforms.
I wasn't done yet. I mostly wanted to see if you had anything to add on uniforms because you started to do it. So
yeah, I don't. I guess I just know that we've never, I don't believe, gotten uniforms from them even in the past.
No.
I always just had St. George uniforms.
Right.
They were town paid for.
Well, paid for by sponsorship and boosters, correct?
We've never had a sponsor. It just says St. George.
Who paid for it? Boosters or the
The town taxpayers?
We reuse them.
Or you,
Jerseys used. If we need new ones, rec pays for them.
Parks and Rec funds
Yes.
from the taxpayers?
As far as
I think
know.
it was budgeted. I think it was either budgeted or I don't recall it coming out of boosters.
No, Boosters hasn't paid for any of them.
But it's been a long time since we bought him, so we could go back and find that out.
If our sponsors for other teams doesn't quite cover uniforms, Boosters usually covers the extra. If it's not in the budget.
Right.
As far as I know. But
Right.
that's never been the case for Little League.
Okay, if we decide to get new uniforms, Ashley will pursue a sponsorship to try to engage somebody local rather than having.
Okay, well, actually, to
League.
clarify, I would say for the majors, the older kid, I still think Farm League, Little League. So Farm League, which is the minors, we do have sponsors, so I guess that may be the case now, but.
Okay, great. And then the hats, they'll provide Oceanside hats. Our teams didn't want Oceanside hats, they wanted St. George hats.
So they used to provide team hats, like every team had their own hat. And I don't know when they started doing just Oceanside, but like Vinyl Haven does the same thing. They wear Vinyl Haven hats, even though Oceanside sends them who doesn't hats. But.
Right, and Vinyl Haven purchases those hats themselves.
Right.
Oceanside Little League isn't buying the Vinyl Haven hats.
They're sending them Oceanside.
And then Oceanside Little League is providing some new balls, baseball, softball, and catcher's equipment. Ashley submitted her request for what they need for gear, and so they're going to help us with that. Also, if any team has a game on Vinyl Haven, Oceanside Little League will play for the players and coaches ferry fees to get out to Vinyl Haven. Last year, they didn't have to do that for St. George didn't go out at all. And the teams that did go out had enough lobster boats between them that they did it that way rather than using the ferry. And so that hasn't come up, mostly because it's tough to schedule with the weather in the spring, getting a team on a ferry and out to Vinyl Haven. And so, but that does stand as something that they offer. So really, at the end of the day, we're charged $75 per player to play in Oceanside Little League. What they then, and I've outlined what we receive in return for it. Field the uniform support if we wanted, the equipment, as well as the putting together the schedule, finding umpires, etc. Frankly, how they manage the $75 and how much of the 75 comes to St. George or not, I don't think is really our place. We need to decide if we're happy with the product that we get for $75 or not. And if we're not, then we can pursue other leagues to play in. For example, Camden Little League, where they charge, I think, $100 per player, or Madonic Little League, which is, I think, less $40 or $50 per player.
I think.
But I don't really think it's the town's role or the Parks and Rec Committee's role to try to nitpick how a private nonprofit is being run. There's a fee for the service. It's $75 per player. If we're not happy with it, we can pursue alternatives.
Well, I think what really this stemmed from was that until apparently now, they've never given us anything except hats. We've never got bats, balls, catcher's gear. Now, this will be the first gear that I know of in 10 years that they've ever provided to St. George.
That's what I was going to say, Brian, is that this is the road that we need to keep moving forward on, because in the years past, we've gotten nothing from them. There's been and even communication itself, like they would leave us out of meeting dates and times. So it's really just trying to figure out, I don't think anybody's upset about that amount of money, but we need to be benefiting and getting the same as every other, especially the Oceanside teams. We were getting nothing. And we were getting, like I said, excluded from meetings and correspondence and all of that. So it was getting really frustrating.
One of our coaches is a board member now, and so that is helpful for representation. And then, Ashley is a liaison, and we've had conversations, and she'll make it a priority to attend those meetings, even though we have a board member.
And wasn't part of, I guess it sounds to me like part of the misunderstanding was that the uniforms were coming out of the $75 per kid. But if where they were getting money for uniforms was from sponsorships,
yes,
then that was irrelevant to us, right?
I think $75 per kid covers uniform and all the other expenses anyway. So
I'm not sure how they've done it. It's been a little while since I've had a kid in the majors, but when like my oldest was playing, there were 6 teams. They had the same uniforms every year. Their sponsors, they didn't buy new uniforms with that money every year. I mean, like Kiwanis had the same uniforms that weren't purple anymore because they've been running them for 10 years.
Yeah.
And one of the big things was us asking, trying to ask the committee, what are these funds going toward and how is it benefiting our kids? And they were giving us a lot of pushback on that. As well as I think Ben kind of did his own thing when it came to this. He got frustrated with it. I think he kind of started this whole we're just going to take care of this ourselves kind of thing. So I think it's just what you're doing now, Brandon, and Ashley's now more involved. We've got a couple other people that are in there. We've got to just stay involved and keep moving forward. I know they have a big Oceanside party, I think, at the end of the year with that money that our kids aren't included in. Brian, is that right?
We used to be, but I've heard we weren't invited this last
Yeah, and
year.
they do training clinics with that money that our kids are not included in. So I guess
That's not.
It seems like we get an invitation the day before stuff.
Oh, we are invited to those clinics.
the last one said Oceanside only.
Advertising that clinic. That last one I saw, they'd been advertising that clinic for Oceanside for 2 months, and we got an invite before.
It said Oceanside only on the thing. So I guess that's the problem. It's all the confusion and people are just getting frustrated with it.
Well, I think the piece to remember here is that if you wanted to make sure that everything was entirely equitable and equal across the board, then our kids should enter as Oceanside Little League players and be in the pool with all the other kids. And then they are gonna be invited to, to the clinic, so they're gonna wear Oceanside.
Whoa. There's one clarification on that, because I was here when we changed that rule. We had our own team before. We were never part of like Kiwanis and Fisher and all that. We had a St. George team. The only change that we made was we didn't let our kids go up to be in their draft.
Right.
Because what the coaches were doing, we're drafting our kids first. So they'd take our top kids up there and we wouldn't have any of our St. George kids.
Right, and so we separated ourselves out from.
Right,
So I
from
think
the
if you
draft.
want the exact same experience, then.
But we
need
didn't,
to
we
enter
never, we never changed whether or not we had a team. We had a St. George team anyway, and we always used the fields. That's not something we decided on. That was part of the original plan. The only thing to change was the draft.
Great. Well, either way, I think it stands.
No, I think we're.
$75 is the fee for the service. If we are not happy with the service, we should pursue alternatives. And if anybody's interested in diving deeper into how Oceanside Little League is run, then they should join the board, because that would be the role of Oceanside Little League board member. But we have a coach and a member from town on it to do some of that work.
No, I think we're moving in the right direction, yeah, especially if they're gonna provide some gear. That's the big thing. I mean, we pay for all our own gear, and that is definitely something the league should be helping them.
All right, well, thank you, Brandon, for getting involved in this, because I know people have been so frustrated, and it has been unacceptable that they've been so resistant to providing information. So it sounds like we're over that hurdle, and that's the biggest thing. Is that right? You're moving in the right direction.
Sounds like it, yeah.
The other piece that I will add is that I'm not pursuing a refund.
No.
So a committee, Parks and Rec committee member had brought that up, but I am more interested in just creating a good working relationship moving forward.
That is not something we as a committee agreed on at all. So if that's somebody's outside opinion, that's not something we were asking for or want.
Great.
All right, well, thank you. I guess you can log off if you want, or you can listen to the rest of our meeting. The other significant item on the agenda was, for us, sort of like we were talking about, with the priorities.
Are you done with us?
Yes.
Okay.
Run. Thank you for being.
Or else you might be on the Little League board. I'm personally nominating.
Don't do it. So attached to the agenda were the select board priorities that we've set for ourselves for this year. And we're a little over halfway through the fiscal year, so I thought it made sense to see where we are. And I'm was really happy, as I looked at this to see, how much we are doing and the fact that almost everything on this list is well underway. So, the first thing being improving communications with residents. I think we get a lot of positive feedback from people about getting text notifications or email notifications, like the harbor committee's meeting is coming up, or, and I know there are a lot of people who are not aware that they can sign up for those, so if all of us make sure we let people on our committees know how to do that, so if you go on the town website where it says across the banner at the top, it says communications. If people click on that, it will pull up a menu of, I wanna know when the planning board meets, and I want a text or I want an email. So people can, get all of that information. I continue to be amazed at how many people watch or listen to our YouTube recordings.
Oh, yeah.
With
God.
Right, I know,
Trouble sleeping.
we didn't expect to be any kind of YouTube celebrities when we signed up for this, but, it's a good thing if people are able to pay attention to what's going on.
And the website is much improved and very interactive. I've just been impressed with it. I think that helps a lot.
Well, it's good to hear that because I know it was, some people were, reluctant to let go of the old website. And it was kind of daunting. I was awfully glad for Jeff Boulette and John Malte helping us figure it out. And I know Bill Batty finds it much easier to put stuff on than the old one. So that first thing I think we're doing well. Also engaging in the fundraising campaign for Snows Point Lodge. We've got the Valentines dance on Friday night. I hope I'm gonna see you all there. And money that's come in and, we will continue to work on fundraising, I would guess, for the coming year. With respect to our relationship with the school board, I feel like that, those communications, we finally got over that hurdle with, how we'll, disperse money pursuant to warrants with them. And Brandon, you wanna just update people about where we are with that?
Yeah, Irene and I have met with the superintendent and business manager over there. They provided some information on sort of their schedule, like when what their expenses are sort of month by month, so that we can anticipate, when there'll be a larger draw and when there won't be. And so before the year's up, we're gonna run sort of a couple tests of them, submitting warrants to the town at the timeline that will work with our own timeline and just make sure that everything is working smoothly before July 1 when it starts.
So I'm glad we're on track to do that. And I did have one or two communications with the school board president, Jennifer Garrett, around the time that we had the issues about trans students in schools, and just because we're all part of the town and we're all getting the same legal advice. And felt like those were, constructive conversations. So I'm feeling like our relationship with the school board is good. People should let me know if they have any concerns about that. On number 4, consider ways that we might monitor or regulate short-term rentals. Aaron and I had a meeting with the person from Granicus, which is a company that does this for municipalities. A couple weeks ago, she was very impressive, and They really do support municipalities in many different ways. As they consider what they might want to do about short-term rentals. And so the next step I thought was for Brian, who's also interested in this, and Brandon, and if anybody else wants to watch this, did you, the hour long about Zoom meeting that we had with her. I can send you the link and the PowerPoint. And the next step would be for us to meet with a person from that company that could help us figure out, like, why do we want to do this and what are some ideas? And then I thought once we got further down that path, we could have a community conversation this summer when our summer residents are here, when people who rent out their properties are around and paying attention to this, and ask people what they're thinking. And I did see in the last 2 weeks, it was in the newspaper that Camden Select Board was considering changing how they charge for this. So initially, when they first put their registry of short-term rentals into effect, everybody who was registering a short-term rental paid, I think it was $300. And now they're gonna charge based on how many bedrooms the rental has, so less for a smaller place, and like $1,000 if it's, 6 or more bedrooms or whatever. But I think that when we have a community conversation about this, it will be helpful to have a company like Granicus helping us, because they have advised other communities in Maine. They have all the data. They know what different towns are doing and how it works or doesn't work. And people in St. George can hear what the options are then. Yeah.
Do we have any idea how many short-term rentals there are?
Yes, we do. She told us that. If I can find my notes. I will tell you what she said to us.
291 listings,
291.
245 that are unique rental units. So she figured peak
245
season,
rentals.
245 that are,
that's now. So
right.
in summertime, she said it's 300 plus probably.
Wow, that's impressive.
And the way they gather that information is all the different sites like Airbnb, VRBO.
Right.
And then I don't know if they're looking at other stuff, like back when my husband and I rented our house, of course, I paid the sales and use tax to the state of Maine that I was collecting from people.
So
one
that would be
option
another way to
for the
check.
people who are collecting and paying tax, you could look at, government sites, but I suspect there are probably some people who are not doing it. But I was impressed with this company and as a resource for us as we think about what to do. And so we're well on our way to having a meeting with our community and thinking about what we might want to do. And then the fifth big priority was acquiring additional land for conservation or preservation, either by getting it donated to the town or putting money in the budget to purchase property or have match for grants or something. And the proposed budget that will be coming to us will have money in there for that. And the open space committee is looking at, different means of making it easier for people to conserve property in town or donate it to the town, which, we'd obviously have decisions to make, but those things are underway. Then some of these other issues, the community resilience plan is being developed by the resilience committee. And Aaron, tell us, or Wendy, when is the the St. George meeting about the next community meeting?
The next community meeting, I think, is March 30th and 31st, one here, one in South Thomaston. And
the
do you know
one-
which one
I
is?
think the second one is here, but I'll confirm it.
Let's see if I have it in my notes.
So that will be an important time for people to come to, is that gonna be at the school auditorium?
No, it's at the library, right? I think.
Is it? I don't have it written down where
Yeah,
it is.
Well, we'll have to pay
Yeah.
attention to Facebook and different places that you get the word out.
Mhm.
We'll have other select board meetings before then. Because I'm hoping that people who care about the impact of climate change in town will come to that meeting to learn what's been going on. One of the things for the budget committee and in the budget workshops that were held by our budget committee, they did factor in things that were in the comprehensive plan as priorities, like having a planner in the budget and a person to provide support to Steve Jarrett and others for property management. So even before our tool, we've been working on that. There's information about the revaluation. Do you want to just let people know where we are, what we're expecting with that?
Yeah, and we haven't heard anything from KRT that the schedule has changed. But I am not optimistic that it will remain on schedule. Many of their other projects were delayed, and I would expect them to be further along in their process. They haven't really started here at all, and so Jackie and I have been in communication with them, and before they send out any mailing to residents about starting their work, we'll do some communication on our own just to sort of prep residents and let them know what to expect and what's coming, and how to direct their questions.
So Brandon and Jackie are on top of that process. The land use issues are, all things that are being attended to, and there have been meetings to talk about. And Michael Jordan is working on ordinance changes that might be necessary, that will be necessary for us to adopt as a result of new laws affecting accessory dwelling units. And we're doing some work on that. The economic development issues, the TIF committee is still working on trying to figure out how much money we might generate every year. There's still hard at work on that. And Brandon and Aaron and I met with some other people in the community, like from the CDC and the Business Alliance, to talk about having 3 meetings a year to focus on economic development. So that, especially with Colby coming into town and the Maine Coast Fishermen's Association, it seems important for all of us to know what everybody else is doing. And if there are ways we can work together on anything that impacts economic development, whether it's parking or something else, that we're talking to each other. So that was a good first meeting, and I think there's gonna be more, collaboration because of that. And the panel conversations on the working waterfront have been good. The one we had a couple weeks ago was well attended and very engaging. Having young fishermen on the panel was really fun. I mean, I did not realize before that night that you could get a student lobstering license at age 8. And so it was interesting to hear so many panel members had started that young.
And from young and old and the perspective.
Right.
Quite interesting.
In my day. And at our last meeting, we had Mike here and Katie Jacob to talk about the telehealth, plans. I did follow up, Mike mentioned at that meeting that he was going to apply for a grant that, might include some funding for community paramedicine. And so I did follow up with him in an email saying, just make sure you talk to Brandon and Katie if a grant that you're putting in has the potential to impact the town's budget or staffing, Brandon needs to be part of conversations like that. And,
Yeah, that did not happen ahead of time, which he apologized for and admitted was less than ideal. And so right now, the way that it is proposed in the grant is that any funds received would support directly the community paramedicine time spent on telehealth. If it looks like it's going to be awarded, we're going to appeal to make those unrestricted community paramedicine funds rather than specific to telehealth. That would have been the piece of feedback that Katie and I had
would have liked to have provided. Because you can see the challenge here is, back when my husband took advantage of the community paramedicine program, we knew that if there was a 911 call, they were not going to come at the time they told us because that took precedence. And that is how our program has worked, and that's fine. But if somebody has a telehealth appointment with a surgeon in Scarborough that they're following up, that's not something that you can count on, a community paramedic to be available to go. So, this is where the staffing coordination between what their goals are and the town really need to, Brandon and Katie really need to be involved for it to work the way they want it to work over at the CDC.
Do you see that coordination happening from here on now?
I hope so.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
And the last thing on the list, which is the only one that I don't really know the current status, is adopting an artificial intelligence policy. I know Bill was waiting for the Maine Municipal Association to have their policy drafted, and then we were gonna probably, use that as our policy or something as a first draft.
Yeah, I'm not sure if they've released their draft yet or not, so.
The last time I asked him, he said they thought they'd have it after the first year, and he hasn't done that long, so maybe you could ask him. But, so this is a lot of hard work being done by town staff and committees, and, so at our just past mid-year, I'd say we're doing great. Does anybody want to add anything?
It's good to have the checkup a little bit.
It is, it's good. And the last thing on the discussion items, which really I could have said in communications, Ben Martins, who's the executive director of the Maine Coast Fishermen's Association, emailed me and asked, he said he wants to come to St. George and talk about ideas for the use of that building at Wildcat. And I told him I thought it would be great if he would come to a select board meeting, because a lot of people do look at our agenda, and if they see that he's coming, they will come to hear and weigh in, or they can watch the YouTube video afterward or read the minutes and know what they're thinking. It sounds to me like they're still very much interested in input from us.
I worry about that though. I mean, that is zoned what?
Marine.
Marine commercial. Yeah, there's not a whole lot that can go on there.
Very true.
Yeah.
But it can be education related to marine.
Well, that's fine, but it's not gonna be a restaurant. I mean, people, anecdotally, I've heard all kinds of things. It's like,
No.
yeah, what do you, a restaurant, a bar? A fish and chips. No, I mean, people have all kinds of ideas and yes. And sometimes I feel like when you invite people's input, yeah, that there are things that should be reining them in.
Yeah, well,
Well, it
I
can be
think,
made clear at the start.
yes, we will, make sure when I put it on the agenda that,
Marine
Yeah.
related uses
Right.
only.
Yeah.
so he's, I told him either the next two meetings would be a good time, and so I don't know, but we'll hear more from him soon, so that's good.
I just received an email from them that the community survey is now open. So they're looking for input from the community as to.
Is the survey, can you click on it? Can you? Is it?
Could you just forward that email?
Yeah, that'd be
Okay.
great.
You know, when they had an open house
Mhm.
over there, and you were there,
Mhm.
and it was packed.
It was packed.
People are pretty interested
Yeah.
It loads up.
in what happens to the pagoda.
Right.
Marine related.
But anyway, I'll send it to everybody.
Good. And we'll put the link in the minutes. So that if people read the minutes and wanna go fill out the community survey, they'll be able to do that.
Yeah, you can't do it.
Yeah, I knew there was a Google. You've had issues forwarding things before, but
It's
Some
a very
people, they
least,
can't
it's a
get
piece
into
of
the
waterfront.
email. Like, if I go home, I can do it.
you can do it.
That's
Hell, there's water.
I can't do it on
Working
anything.
water.
I know.
Yeah, but I think that place is a perfect example of the complexity of that zoning. You know, it sat there for sale for years because the average fisherman and fishing business would not be able to afford the going rate for a waterfront property. So that's why somebody accepted it as a donation, but I do worry for, properties in that kind of zoning, what the future holds. So Brandon, your report.
Yeah, shared about Little League. I don't think there's anything else there. Working with the school to put out an RFP for an auditor. We're working with Fred currently, but that's just on a year-to-year basis, and so we're looking to see if we can get maybe a longer contract with.
New and improved service.
Yes. And so we've got a draft of that. It's pretty similar to the last one. I'll bring it to you all to review before it goes out if you'd like.
Well, where is he with the one he's supposed to be working on now?
They got all of our materials right before the holidays and have not needed anything else from us since then. So it's underway. But we haven't heard anything in a couple weeks or so.
Do they have everything they need from the school?
The schools is done. They had to do the schools first and then they start the towns, and so.
So when they had 5 auditors sitting down here, that.
Right.
They were down here for 2 days.
Yeah, so they should be getting there, right?
Well. I don't, with it being at the height of income tax season. They did have 2 auditors here that were working with the Volunteer Fire Association. But they were here like a month or 2 before they were here for us. So they're still doing some work on audits as well. But as far as where we are in there.
They don't
know. I don't know. Do you know that?
No, nothing else to add there. We've had some work done over at Snows Point Lodge. A lot of the ceilings are done in the kitchen and the big room. so that's exciting, as well as all the exterior trim. I believe I told you all of that.
Nice.
So it's insulated. So it's buttoned up pretty well right now, but we've essentially run out of money to keep going over there. And so it's on pause until we do some more targeted fundraising to get that moving again. We have a little bit left, but not enough for them to dive into a project.
And the next things you want them to do are heating and what?
I mean, that will require a different contractor, but I'll probably send an electrician in next to put lighting in the ceilings and whatnot. It's a smaller project, easier to raise the funds and complete that project than to.
Have we had any articles in the newsletter about the fundraising campaign to sort of get,
A while
private
back,
donations?
I think,
Yeah,
it didn't
I
really.
want to keep it in front of people somehow.
Well, I don't know that that's necessarily the way that I would want to fundraise. Eventually, people will just start tuning it out and ignoring it,
Oh, right, yeah.
I'd like to see more intentional, concentrated efforts, with folks that are maybe specifically interested in the project and would
Right.
donate if they were able to learn about it a bit more in depth or something.
Yeah.
And I do think when the weather's better, if Parks and Rec has like an open house there for people to go see what's possible, that would inspire some people. And
I just know that there's people in the community that could privately donate significant amounts if they wanted to, if they knew about it.
And I think that we get those with a more direct ask than just putting it out in
Yeah.
a newsletter, so that's where I'd like to see the efforts next.
Another thought I had was if we had being an old journalist, if we had a story in the Big Coast Villager or something that could help, just like raise
Right.
awareness.
Right.
A feature about what's happening and what the potential is. That could be useful.
yeah,
It's not targeted exactly, but it, yeah,
Absolutely.
keeps people aware.
well, maybe you could work with Brandon on
Yeah.
drafting, providing information.
Yeah.
So that would happen.
Or getting some interest in them covering it.
Yeah, again, probably needs to be a little warmer than it's been, but.
Another couple of months.
At least it hit 30 today.
Then the hiring committee I believe, has scheduled interviews for the transfer station attendant, is that correct?
We have 2 on Wednesday.
Great. And if after those interviews, if they want to bring in more candidates, they will, but they're gonna start with 2 candidates on Wednesday.
And are you currently down a person?
Yes, he's able to fill in occasionally when, Ben or Rob needs to be, off for a full day or something, but for the most part, they're running the facility with the 2 people, and so it's tough. They're racking up overtime because of it. They're both getting a little burnt out, so.
Well, Tara expressed interest in going over.
Good. Good.
She said she might be going over there.
You can run it with 2 people, just not sustainably, essentially.
So hopefully one of those will work out and we'll have somebody to work with. Anything else in your report?
No.
Okay. The planning board.
We're meeting tomorrow night, but the last time we met, let's see, there was a project approved, adding to floats at the Tenants Harbor Boatyard. And it was approved with the proviso that a rock, a submerged rock would be marked with some kind of flag so that people don't run into it. And there was also another application for an access ramp for Raspberry Island in Port Clyde. And it was for the homeowner to get materials on and off the island. And the application was actually scaled down. There had been a project approved for a concrete ramp, but now the project has been scaled down just to be a wood ramp, and it's going to be pinned to the ledge. And no vegetation will be removed. And they have also received DEP and Army Corps approval. So, the application is found to be complete and there's much less environmental impact from this new application. So, and we are meeting tomorrow night and I believe there is an application on the agenda.
No appeals from the Board of
No.
Appeals. Harbor Committee,
And,
all right. Budget Committee has concluded its, review of the budget and will be making its recommendations to us before we get the, budget from them and Brandon. Cemetery Committee,
They met on February 4th here at the town office, and they had a presentation about the green burials, which Steve attended. And they would like to move forward with a plan, but will continue to do research on green burials. Warren, the town of Warren is in the process of doing their policies and setting up where they'd like to do it and things, so they're gonna watch Warren to see how they set up their green burial plan, and then they will try to move forward to see what we can do in St. George. And they are looking at updating their policy related to what they call cremains and how they are put in the ground at the cemetery. Because I guess there's issues with heavy metals and salt, and so they want to make sure that's being done properly. And they now have money from the town to replace the markers on veterans' graves as needed. And I think Irene was able to find some money to help with the markers, veterans' markers.
The American Legion had asked for money to do the markers, to replace all the markers with the zinc alloy. That's in the budget that's gonna be presented to the select board. I do have some in my office, so if they are missing, if one of the cemeteries is missing any, there's a marker missing, or they just need to replace a broken one, I do have some.
They'll do it as needed, yeah. And eventually they will probably all be replaced.
They will probably all be replaced by Memorial Day. Well, no, in July or August, because that's when the new budget will take effect.
Well, yeah, they'll have, assuming that the proposed budget is approved by the select board and then the voters, they'll have funds to replace all of them in town.
as of July 1st.
Yes,
When the money is
yes.
allocated.
I
So
do
Labor
have,
Day, not Memorial Day.
I do have
Or Veterans Day,
over
whatever.
50 right now available.
Well, that's what he said, they would replace them, as they break or whatever. They're not just gonna go out and take everything down and replace with all.
Well, yeah, there will be money there for the American Legion to buy enough to do that after July 1st, providing the budget gets.
So they were very pleased about that.
Tammy, are they working on updating their record keeping? That was something I had heard.
I think Dawn is gonna start working on that. Is it Leticia? Her name was mentioned, and getting with her and starting mapping, and they're also gonna be meeting with Owl's Head. They're having meetings, and they will be discussing that and other things related to cemeteries. Other towns will be coming, and that will be part of their discussion. So,
Yeah, that'll be important to improve their record keeping and mapping.
right, yes.
The Emergency Services Committee has not met since we last met. The TIF committee did meet, and as I said, they're continuing to get information, mostly from the state, to try to clarify how much we could, save, in paying the county. So they will work on having a recommendation for us in, I would guess, April or May, about whether to go forward with a TIF next steps. Wendy, when does the scholarship committee send out information?
I don't know. Look at Brandon.
I think March is when that process picks up.
So do you have it calendared so that it happens on time and the right people are involved and all that?
We post it on our website, and then I think share it in the newsletter, and the school shares it in theirs as well.
Okay. But then we'll also have to convene the group.
Correct.
So as long as somebody's paying attention to that.
Yes, we are.
Okay, good. Thank you. Conservation Commission.
Yes, they're going strong. They met recently. Of course, Ken is here and can chime in, but there was lots of discussion about the Emerald Ash Borer, which is anticipated, unfortunately, not a welcome guest. And because the Fort Point Trail is surrounded by ash trees and white ash, and so it could make the trail hazardous if it comes in there, and then the branches could fall or trees could fall, and worst case, you'd have to close the trail to Fort Point. So there's lots of discussion about treatment, it's very inaccessible. Like if you wanted to remove the trees, how would you get there? There's no road to where the trail is, and you'd have to have a willing landowner to let us in there. So I think there are different options, but at some point, the Conservation Commission is going to come to us with a proposal, but that's in the works. Is that correct, Ken?
Yeah, we're hoping to come to your next meeting. We're putting
Okay.
together some information, and we've had, in addition, we've had a meeting with the people in Camden. They're going through a similar issue. The infestation is a little bit closer to Camden than it is to St. George at this point. So they're going to start their effort this spring, and so we're with them and with the people from Herring Gut. We're going to start a public information set of sessions to inform the public about the issues and what can be done about it. But like Steve said, if we don't do anything, the trail will be unusable for safety reasons in a matter of time. So it's inevitable that they'll get here unless we take some action.
All right, will you let me know if you want, I'll make a note to connect with you if you want to be on the next agenda.
Yeah, I think we'll be ready by the next meeting to do that.
Okay.
The other thing I should mention, I think I brought up the parking issue that we've had at Old Woods Farm. So we're going ahead to put up signs similar to the signs that the Harbor Committee's put up in Port Clyde that said violators would be towed at their expense. And we're working with AutoMaster to get their signs with their phone number for people to reclaim their cars if they do get towed.
If their cars are worth it.
If who would make that call? Like, I mean, this has come up before, that we don't have a constable or a person on staff. What are we?
I think at this point, if a resident there sees a car that's illegally parked, they would contact the Conservation Commission, and then we would then contact AutoMaster to have a car towed. Similar to what they've done at Port Clyde, would give them a warning the first time we see a car's illegally parked.
I guess the only thing I'm thinking about that is, it feels like a town official should probably make the call, you know, based on information from the council. No, you don't think so? I mean,
No.
Ken is a town official. I'm just thinking in terms of process.
I mean, if somebody was parked across your driveway blocking you in, you would be able to call
Right.
and have them towed. I don't see it as any different than that.
And because that is HOA property there.
Right,
where
they're parking on private property when
Okay.
they're parking illegally,
All right.
not on town property.
Okay,
But I mean, currently, the town is a member of the HOA, so the town can also make that phone call.
right. I just would like us to have kind of a clear policy of who's authorized to do it if it's the town. You know, not just. I don't know, doesn't that make sense?
Of course, we're hoping it won't turn into a problem with the signs there.
Well, I know we're
People
hoping
park
that,
properly.
that having the signs
Not sure it's
will,
been a big problem at Port Clyde. I haven't heard that it is.
Oh, it has been.
Oh, it has been.
Yeah.
Have we had people know?
Multiple people were given warnings, and I don't think that anybody officially got towed. But you know, then you have people that would come and move their car over a spot, you know,
Yeah.
to get around it, and so.
Like the city, you get moving a cab.
I mean, that's time parking, that's, you know, that's gonna happen, but here, you know, if you're parking on somebody's private residence. I
oh, right, no, I'm not talking about that, I'm thinking more about. There are several spots that are gonna have timed. That are spots, not parking on. In the blocking the driveway like we heard before, but. You're thinking that if we have a 4-hour time limit. And the neighbors.
I don't think there's.
No, it's not going to say anything with a time limit. It's just no parking on the road or no parking in the emergency turnaround area.
All right.
That's why I think, you know, the parking that is not in the designated lot would be on, you know, private property.
Right,
And
you can call.
Yeah.
Right, okay. No, I'm glad, I
Because
appreciate that.
the illegal parking was happening in driveways so that people couldn't get out.
Or on the end of
Yeah.
the road. And,
Yeah.
you know, and that's HOA property.
Yeah.
And Ken's right, we are an HOA
Yeah.
member, but so are all of the members. So
Right.
I think any resident on Old Woods Farm Road could call for it's gonna be just much more reliable and timely if
Sure,
if they're able to
Right.
do it.
sure.
I mean, you know, they won't have to confront the person that's parked there,
Yeah.
you know. so.
Right,
You're right.
well, I appreciate this clarification.
Yeah.
All right, are we done with the Conservation Commission?
Yeah, I think that's all the key items that were covered.
Okay, great. Shellfish Committee.
The Shellfish Committee meets February 17th, 5:30 at the Warren Town Office.
And solid waste, is there other?
They have started their outreach composting program. That Black Harpoon is their first customer that will receive bins for compost, and right now, the plan is Ben is going to be, I'm told, is going to go every day and check and pick up the bin. And if it's, well, right now, they're not so concerned about it, but in the summertime, they're really gonna have to be picked up every day because of smell issues and all that stuff. And then they replace it with a new bin.
And
And
in the summer, we currently do daily trash barrel pickups anyway, you know, in Port Clyde. And so this isn't adding, you know, extra like driving or route that wouldn't normally be in place.
so they'll
That's
just
good
grab it
enough.
on the way back.
Yeah, when they do the trash barrel.
And then they just give them a new bin and go from there. And next, Bruce Fagley, who is the chair of the recycle committee, will be meeting with the owner of the Craigmere Inn. And hopefully they will get on board and he will give them a bin, and then I would assume Ben will be going to the Craigmere every day.
I'm not sure how I
Well,
have,
they're thinking daily, but I think that's gonna be more in the summertime than in the wintertime.
Mhm.
off-season.
Well, and these places aren't open every day in this time of year, so.
So it's a test. They're gonna see how it goes, and eventually they will bring on more businesses and hopefully get lots of compost.
Which would cut down on the total trash going in the hopper.
Yeah,
I mean, New Coast Villager article, I don't know if y'all read it recently, but it shows that Knox and Lincoln counties, like waste amounts is really, really high. Now I do a lot more than other towns even, but I do think this will go a long way to,
it'll help a
things
lot
up
with the
there.
weight of our trash.
Yeah.
It'll take a lot of weight out of the trash, which will help with fees and all that good stuff.
And it's revenue generating. Because we sell out of compost every year, so if we can make more.
Generate income, right? And as Brandon pointed out, they're in the process of hiring a new employee for the transfer station.
Can't happen soon enough, right?
Yeah.
Resilience.
Lots of things are happening with the Resilience Committee. The last meeting was February 4th in South Thomaston, and that's the group that's working on the community assessment plan and which is the new name for the climate action plan. And so people have been working on different vulnerability assessments. And so a couple of people presented pieces of the eventual report. It was very, very interesting. So there was a presentation on economic vulnerability, public health vulnerability, social vulnerability. There was lots of interesting things about who our workers are right now and how that's changing. Our workers 10 or 20 years ago, there was a segment of the population that was over 65 working, but now and in the next 10 to 20 years, there's going to be more people working at 65 and older than younger people, which I find fascinating because I'm going to be part of the older people pretty soon. So, yeah, like tomorrow. And it was interesting. There was lots of things Aaron presented. There was lots of interesting things about our towns. Like 80% of the economy for both towns is fishing or fishing related. And so that's something to think about in terms of long-term plans for economic development. And it's just very, very interesting to see how all these facts are, come together for both towns. So, and this is, I can pass this around. This is the pathway to finish the report. So we're here in the assess vulnerability, and this is until winter 2026 through summer fall 2026, and then spring 2026. So everyone in that group working very, very hard, and lots of interesting things about our vulnerable, both infrastructure, our citizens. Everything has come together recently. So again, there's going to be a meeting the March 30th, 31st to have another public engagement meeting to present these findings. And then there's going to also be, is it in March 4th? Is that it? There's a meeting of the entire Resilience Committee, because there's a group, working on the road issue, and then there's the group doing the climate action plan. So I don't think we've heard from the engineering firm doing so we're going to have a meeting, I think it's March 4th, to get a report from that. So anyway, lots of doings.
So all of these reports that you got that were so interesting, will we be seeing those on the resilience page?
I think
website?
I think they're still in draft form. I mean, I don't know. Yeah, there are things that are missing, and I don't know if the committee plans before the entire report is together, I don't know how the committee plans to present it to the public. Maybe at the March 30th and 31st meeting.
Yeah, I think they will be the focus of those
Uh-huh.
30th and
Okay.
31st meetings.
Yeah, so then I think when the reports are fine tuned, then I think it might be appropriate to put them on the
Yeah,
website.
because it'd be, I mean,
Yeah.
it sounds very
Yeah.
interesting. Well, I'm glad that you felt like things were really coming
Things
together.
just suddenly came together at that last meeting, that it was really kind of riveting to sit there and listen to it.
That's
Yeah,
fascinating.
and have a little box of popcorn and.
Another more reason for all of us to go when they have the one in town on the 31st.
We said 80% fisheries in both communities.
Yeah, as fishing or fishing related
Yeah,
industry.
I mean,
For the economy.
makes you think, like,
Yeah.
if there are changes because of the
Right.
climate, that could affect a lot.
Open space.
Open space, well, I attended the meeting and then forgot to bring my notes, so, I think I'll just say that they're making progress on their, their vision and their purpose, and there's a really good write-up in the town newsletter. And then I guess you can get that through the website or the hard copy, or it's online, but Sue Merrill, the chair of the Open Space Committee, really laid out what they're about, and for the public, there's a really good understanding of what they're all about.
And my understanding is that the committee has developed a draft of their definition of
They're
open
working on
space.
definitions, yeah.
So, and I believe in our charge to them, we asked them to bring their recommended definition to the select board, so that, like, as they're launching down this path, we're all on the same page about
Yeah,
what,
I mean, it's a little soon to get an update from them in person, but at some point we could do that.
Yeah.
Have them come and tell us what they're doing.
The last thing I just wanted to share that, last week I learned that there'd been kind of a mix-up about who was gonna submit letters about cell service in town to the different cell service providers. You remember that last fall we collected all this information, and I thought somebody was gonna present those packets to the providers, but I was mistaken. And so I now have all that information and have drafted a letter to the cell service companies that Brandon and I will sign. And I did talk to the Colby representative, who said they would like to revise the letter that they gave us in the fall, now that they're farther along with their plans. So as soon as I have that, and I'm gonna be making some calls tomorrow to figure out who's the best person at different places to send this stuff to. I mean, I have, the names, like for American Tower, that when they have made changes to their towers in town, but that might not be the same person that should get this packet, so.
They are a middle person, they develop property, so they don't really have anything to do with the
Right.
actual antennas
Right.
and, yeah.
Well, so one of the things I did when I realized I was gonna have to do this is, the FCC has a list of the people that have permission to have a cell tower here, there, and everywhere. So I have information from the real estate development people, and then Verizon Wireless and US Cellular, and so I need to make some calls to figure out who we need to send these letters to, but it is a really good packet of information, and then we'll see if we can pressure somebody that could help us improve service in town. I mean, I think one of the things is, if we say that as a municipality, we're willing to let them put micro towers and stuff on, streetlights or
Those
town buildings, or where the water district is, or the, whatever, that that is different than them having to acquire property and go through all that, so we'll see, but that's sort of back on track after I had thought. But anyway, we're back on track. So does anybody have anything else?
One quick
Yeah.
announcement, I plan to attend the housing committee meeting at the CDC tomorrow, so I'll be able to update the board at our next
Good.
meeting on how that's going, that whole project out on Route 73.
Good. Very important. Okay, well, thank you, everybody. Somebody want to make a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
All in favor? You? Okay, the meeting's over. If anybody does want to sign that paper,